The Arrows podcast is brought to you by Triumph Protective Coatings. Triumph Protective Coatings is a construction company specializing in epoxy flooring and concrete resurfacing systems. They service the LA area and the greater LA area and counties. They speak Spanish, so you don't even have to worry about that. They speak Spanish. You can follow them on Instagram, Triumph_Coatings, on Facebook, Triumph Protective Coatings. You can visit their website, triumphprotectivecoatingsca.com, to get a free quote. And you can also email them. So many ways to get in contact with these guys. You can email them at triumphprotectivecoatings@gmail.com. And so if you tell them Arrows Upset you, you get a 15% off on your next project. They do beautiful work on the floors, on the walls. Their stuff is incredible. Check out their Instagram for all their work. They do amazing work. Couldn't be happier to support them. And they sponsor this podcast, so they're extra awesome for that as well. So check them out. Use them for your next project, and you will be satisfied. Welcome to the Arrows podcast. On this episode, NFL Week 3 is in the books. Kind of, actually. Not in the books completely or officially, as both the Lions and the Ravens are playing as we speak. So it isn't over officially, technically. But, yeah, I'll make a video about that game. How about that? And that's what we do. But as of now, 6:54 p.m. Pacific time, it is tied 14-all in the third quarter. As it's been a very close game so far, but yeah, we'll talk about that. You can watch a video on that later. Anyway, week 3 NFL, and we'll get into all of it, and then yeah, maybe I'll sprinkle some football, and then we'll get you out of here. So that's what I have in store for you on the pod today. So I have this is the last week of the Major League Baseball season. So Harry and I will reconvene on Sunday night. We'll talk about the season that was, and then we'll kind of get you up to speed as to what it is that we are looking forward to in the playoffs. We'll preview the playoff matchups and get you ready. And then on Friday's pod, I'll give you just kind of heading into the last weekend of baseball, what is needed, what are you going to be looking for, what are the races, and all that. So a lot of fun stuff coming down the pike. So stay tuned for all of that. But for now, week 3 NFL season, let's kind of go through it. Here we go. Week 3 NFL season is about to be wrapped up. The Lions and Ravens are 14-all, but let's back up a little bit. Yeah, let's kind of go through the week that was in the NFL, as we've had such an interesting week of football with some injuries and everything else. We'll start Thursday, Dolphins Bills, in a game that was kind of felt like it was being played for Mike McDaniel's job. That's what everybody who watches football went into that game thinking Mike McDaniel might lose his job if the Dolphins look like complete stiffs. And to their credit, to Mike McDaniel's credit, they lost, but they didn't look completely awful. There was some fight. It was 14-all at the end of the first half. And this is like typical NFL, where one team was clearly better. The Bills were clearly the better team, even in the first half of that game. But you look at the score, and you were thinking, like, how is this tied? How? Can someone explain this to me? And the only explanation is, yeah, this is professional football. That's what happens. And then the Bills took off. Tua made some questionable decisions, threw a bad pick, and it kind of just snowballed from there, and that was all she wrote. So the Bills take it 3-1, start 3-0, Dolphins 0-3, but Mike McDaniel saves his job at least for another week. And I talked about it last week when it comes to some of these coaches and the success or the failures of some of these coaches and of these teams tied to these coaches is a lot of it is built on the guy that they're taking over. So, and I'm not going to rehash everything I did last week, but a lot of Mike McDaniel's success with Tua was from the fact that Tua was coming off of a coach who didn't believe in him, a coaching staff that didn't want him. And so when Mike McDaniel comes in and he makes and builds an offense around Tua, that just by sheer default, it's night and day. You're now wanted. You're now somebody that people care for, and because of that, your confidence is higher, and everybody else feels great about themselves. And I think that's what happened to Mike McDaniel, and eventually the message gets out because he's too far off the other side to be of a player's coach, and so then it's really hard to get on guys. It's really hard to get your face in some into somebody and get them to respond. And I think that's the problem with Mike McDaniel. That's the problem with him. He might be a phenomenal play caller. He might be really good at drawing up plays. And honestly, it might just be that he has the wrong quarterback. It might just be that he doesn't have the right guy behind center. And it's one of those things that gets a lot of guys fired. Arthur Smith is somewhere nodding, listening to this, just thinking like, yeah, I didn't have the right guy in Minnesota either. And that's in Atlanta, sorry. And that's why I'm the OC in Pittsburgh. And I think that's might be it. Like, Tua clearly is not good enough to be a franchise caliber guy. But he gets paid as one, and so therefore he's gonna play. Those are the rules. Those are the business rules of professional sports. And so that was Thursday night. And then as we get into Sunday, we see how, and I would just hit a few. Texans, Jaguars. It might be time, and it's probably been past time, to hit the panic button on CJ Stroud, who last year struggled, and we chucked it up to, well, it's second year, it happens. Third season, and it's like it's still happening. It's still a thing. There was a graphic going around that I saw on Instagram of CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams, where Caleb Williams gets told by CJ, like, hey, kind of like keep it going or whatever. Like, you just have to stay with it and keep working. You're gonna get it, and blah 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 blah. And so it's one of those things that's now becoming funny just because of everything that's transpired. So since that moment, I'll read you these stats. CJ Stroud has thrown for 3,800 yards, 3,800 plus yards, 19 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Caleb Williams, who by no means is a Like, this isn't to elevate Caleb Williams. This is really to show you how bad C.J. Stroud has been, because Caleb Williams has been really bad. And he just needed to play a really bad Cowboys defense to make us think that he was good, the same way that this bad Cowboys defense made us think that Russell Wilson was still good. Anyway, Caleb Williams in that span has thrown for over 3,900 yards, 27 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And so since that moment where he's trying to, and he's probably not even trying to big brother him. He's probably just like legit just trying to be helpful. But I think every football fan has seen the picture. Caleb just kind of is nodding, but he kind of looks like he's not interested at all into what into what CJ's telling him. And since that moment, CJ has been awful. The Jaguars, who you can make the argument they should be 3-0. They should have beat the Bengals, but they didn't. But they should have. We could probably be having this conversation that they should be 3-0 heading into the next week games versus the 49ers. But it was a game that showed us more who the Texans are not than who the Jaguars are, because this division is awful, and Indy through 3 games looks like the class of that division. But anything can happen in this division. But Jacksonville showed us who the Texans are not. The Texans are not this team that's going to make the playoffs. It's not this team that's going to be the class of the AFC South. They're not that team. They don't have a running game. Their defense is not as good as what we thought they were going to be. And they have good players, and they have some good guys, but you're able to move the ball on them just consistently. And we saw this last Monday night versus the Bucs. You're moving the ball versus this Texans team is not a difficult challenge. And so when you combine that with bad quarterback play and anemic offensive line, you have a disaster, and you have an 0-3 team that heads into week 4 needing a win, or else this is a wrap. Now, for them, thankfully for them and for their fans, they got the Titans coming up, who probably have the worst coach in football. Like, the worst coach in football. So bad, because you might be saying, the worst? Like, is he really that bad? Well, in the game on Sunday, Tennessee versus the Colts, there was a moment in that game where Tennessee calls a timeout, right? They call a timeout, and as they're in the timeout, they are kind of going over whether they want to go for it or not, whether they want to kick a field goal. And Brian Callahan, who's the coach, he's kind of thinking like, what should we do? What should we do? And mind you, he called a timeout for this. Or there was a timeout. It wasn't his timeout, but there was a timeout. And so then they come back from commercial, and he still hasn't decided what he wants to do. And he gets it, and they get a delay game, and now they have to kick a 60-yard field goal that they don't make. All because, and at the end, and in the press conference, he's like, well, I didn't know. We didn't know yet. We weren't ready. We hadn't decided. We were still going over. Mind you, it was all of this during a timeout. This guy's the worst coach in football. The absolute worst. Brian Callahan. And so the Texans, at least, will play this team led by that man. And maybe everything can be salvaged if they're able to get on a run. CJ maybe is able to dust off and have a good game and kind of go from there. But I'm not confident. I think it might be over for the Texans. It might be over before it even starts. But the Colts who've been the best team in that division, Danny Dimes, who's been one of the best stories so far of the young NFL season. They go into Tennessee, they put up 41 points, and the Colts look phenomenal. Danny Dimes looks like he's been unlocked. Jonathan Taylor has been amazing. He's been really, really good, and he looks like his former self. So that's great. And we're just gonna we're gonna wait and see. That's where we're at. Because what we're not gonna do is begin to bury teams based on the first 3 games or first 4 games. We're not gonna do that. If you look at the standings today, the Chiefs are last place in their division, and the Seahawks are last place, even though they're 2-1, tied 3-way tie. But if you look at stuff like this, and it happens every season where somebody has a weird start and they take a picture, like remember in September when the Chiefs were last place, and now they're 14-2, and that's what tends to happen. So let's before we want to throw all of our support and all of our love to Danny Dimes and crown him as the guy for the comeback player of the year. Let's settle down. Let's drink some settle down juice, and let's just wait and see. Let's wait and see how that plays out. But they played really well the first 3 weeks of the season, and they go in to Brian Callahan's house and take care of business. So you got to give him credit at least for that. Rams Eagles, probably the best game of the day, the marquee matchup, I would say. So I'm watching this game, and I'm watching this game before church here on the West Coast. And as I'm watching this game, the Rams have completely shut down Saquon Barkley. And this Barkley doesn't look the same as last year's Barkley. And in the first half, the offense for the Eagles looked horrendous. And Philly fans let them have it. They were booing them. They weren't throwing the ball. They weren't getting A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith involved. It was just like very vanilla play calling on offense. And on defense, the Rams were just going up and down the field. The Rams offense was just killing them deep and taking advantage of just the weakness of the Eagles defense, which is the secondary, the linebacking core, and anything that's not the front four is the weakness for this Eagles team, which they're 3-0, they're winning, and they're figuring out ways to win, but that's a very, very, very bad weakness to have. I'm just marking it because that's a like season-ending type of weakness. This isn't like you can disguise it or something like that. This is just you go deep and you might be connecting multiple times, and the Rams were gashing them on the air. So in the first half, at least, and so then there was 2 possessions where the Rams have the ball, the Rams get stopped, the Rams are driving, and then they settle for field goals. And it was in that moment where the Rams should have been up way more. The Rams should have been up. It was 19-7, and the Rams should have had it should have been like 31-7, honestly. It should have been a 31-7 game, and it should have been over. It should have been 31 or 34-7, and it should have been a complete destruction of this team. In the third quarter, it starts much the same way. The first drive for the Eagles, very similar to everything we had seen in the first half. And then The Eagles get the Rams score. They get their touchdown, which is the last time they score in the game, and it's 26-7. And you're like, dude, this is on. And again, heading into halftime, it should have been 31-7. So this should have been 38-7, and Philly's just having to climb out of this hole. And instead, it's 26-7, and the Eagles come down and just back-to-back drives. Just drive down the field. And the first one, it's like they open it up and they say, we're just going to throw it to A.J. Brown. We just figure it out. And that's what they did. They moved the ball. They get a very quick and a very easy touchdown, I might add. Very easy, which made me realize that, man, this Eagles team really isn't trying to show off everything they can do. Now, which is great from one standpoint, that when they're going to push, when they have to hit the gas, they can hit the gas. They have something to hit. On the other side, on defense, that's a very, very big weakness to have. Anyway, they get 2 drives, 14. So now it's 26-21, close game. And the Rams, from the very first drive of the third quarter, don't score again. Blocked field goal. Then the Eagles take the lead, and then to end the game, blocked field goal, return for a touchdown, game over. And so when we look at this game, and when I went back and I rewatched the second half of this game, I think this game is on Sean McVay, and Sean McVay is in the same tree, in the same mentality, same game plan of like Shanahan and Andy Reid and these offensive-minded coaches that tend to be more conservative. They tend to play it safe. And one of the things I saw throughout the second half, and really the first half too, the 3 drives where the Rams settled for those field goals, it was this inability to punch it in, but also this unwillingness to go for it. They just were not willing to go for 7 and force the Eagles to drive down if you don't get it. And when you're not willing to put a team away, when you're not willing on the road to really lay it on them, you're then leaving the door open. And like the great saying in soccer goes, el que perdona pierde. And the Rams forgave the Eagles and let them live, let them survive, let them hang around. And the Eagles then just took the game from them. And the lasting image of this game, obviously, is the second block punt. But the reality of this game was lost in the first half, when the Rams couldn't score 2 touchdowns. And maybe you settle for 2 touchdowns and a field goal. But the fact that they couldn't get at least a touchdown or 2 touchdowns is what changed the momentum of this game completely. Because you go into halftime and the Eagles say, man, we've played horrible. We've been bad all game. Our offense can't get anything going. But it's only a 19-7 game. We're still in this. And I think that was the biggest mistake, and that is entirely on Sean McVay. Sean McVay cost the Rams that game in Philadelphia, and it was a shame because they probably should have came away with that win, and instead the Eagles win. They pull it out somehow, and now it's 19 of 20 now games that they've won. So. Yeah, they've taken care of business. The Falcons lose to Carolina. How? They just, I don't know, man. This might just be they're good in a dome and they just suck on the road. I don't think anybody saw the Panthers doing this, winning 30-0. Just want to highlight that. Packers-Browns. Packers were coming into this week, and everybody was just like, oh, it's them and the Eagles, 1 and 2 for the Super Bowl. who's going to represent the NFC. And the Browns defense, man. The Browns defense has been just so phenomenal over the last few years to start. And then they lose steam because there's no complimentary football being played there. But one of the things that was interesting ever since Stefanski took over as coach for the Browns, is they are one of the best teams in football at home playing against teams that are above 500. It's Kansas City, it's Buffalo, and it's Cleveland. Yeah, Cleveland. In the record for the top three teams that have the best record against teams that are above 500 when they have them at home. Very impressive. Nobody's expecting the Browns to be on that short list, but they certainly are. And so it allows us to see, and it gives us the understanding that there's a good coaching staff there, and B, man, imagine had they not just shot themselves in the foot with the Deshaun Watson stuff. Imagine had they not traded for Deshaun Watson and they just were able to get some average, competent quarterback. Now, I know that the counter would be, well, it's the Browns. They don't have a competent quarterback. The last competent quarterback that they had, they ran him out of town, and that guy is now winning games in Tampa Bay. And that's fair. But the Browns take care of business, win in the walk-off, and Jordan Love didn't look all that great. The Packers' defense was stout, so they, hang in there. But the Browns, man, you could make the argument, or they could make the argument, they should be 3-0. They should have probably beat the Bengals in week 1. And in week 2, they just made things so difficult for Derrick Henry. And they were in that game, but whatever, but they should be 2-1. They should have beat that Bengals team, and this is a different story, and they're probably feeling a lot better about themselves if they were able to hold on in that Bengals game. So, the Browns. Shout out to the Browns, man, because it's rare when they get their props, but I think it's also an indication that after October, we forget the stuff that happens, but, after November, maybe, I guess it's more accurate, we forget. And so we forget that the Browns start every year with a really good defense, and they're really well coached, and they have a good roster, and they have players on defense that are young and hungry. They just don't have complementary football, and that's a killer. That's a killer. You can't win games in football if you don't play complementary football. But speaking of the last competent quarterback for the Browns, Baker, 3-0 versus everybody else. The Bucs are 3-0, and they are just pulling these games out that are tough, that are kind of coming at the very end, and you need a game-winning drive. And the Buccaneers, over the first 3 games, have showed that they have the veteran presence and the talent to pull these games out. Emeka Igbaka, I totally butchered his name. He's been phenomenal for them, the rookie. We have our yearly Mike Evans injury, so he'll probably be out a month or so with the hamstring. But they're scheduled to get Chris Godwin back, and the Bucs so far look pretty good. Broncos, Chargers. If somebody were to say that Jim Harbaugh is the greatest coach in football, I would say, I don't know, Bill Belichick. But everything that Jim Harbaugh brings to a football team, transformations he does, the success he's had. Because I think it's the longer Belichick coaches, and just the fact that he'll never coach in the NFL again. Just leads me to think that, man, you know what? Like, there is a difference. There is a difference between having success as a coach, even if you're Bill Belichick, who is a phenomenal coach, and having success, but having Tom Brady and having a quarterback, than what Jim Harbaugh has done. And Jim Harbaugh has this Chargers team 3-0, and they just look so much different than Chargers teams of old. Herbert has definitely taken a step up. He's definitely better than what he was last year. He's more confident. He's more sure of himself. He just plays like he's that guy. The throw that he made yesterday was incredible. They were leading the Broncos 10-0, and the Broncos came back, and the Chargers just got tough, man. And they just hung in there. And a sneaky thing is the crowd. I mean, the Broncos have a lot of fans, and it was like a pro Chargers crowd. So shout out to the Chargers, man, and their fans for showing up and showing out yesterday. But yeah, this is the Jim Harbaugh effect. You want to know why 49er fans still love Jim Harbaugh? You want to know why Michigan fans still love Jim Harbaugh? You want to know why Stanford fans still love Jim Harbaugh? Because when Jim Harbaugh joins your team and he becomes your football coach, you become a winner. Because the players around him become winners. Because he's a winner. And so everything that's happening to the Chargers, although, shout out to Albert. He sent me this video on X of Harbaugh just doing Harbaugh things. Who's got it better than us? Nobody. That whole thing. And you see that it's like, yeah, like this is why this guy, people love him. This is why he is successful every single place he goes, because he is a winner. He's a great leader. And he sets up a culture. He's a culture setter. And there's just no denying that. And so the Chargers pull out a win that Chargers wouldn't pull off. They would have totally screwed that up. And this team doesn't, because they're a different team. And so they are first place in their division. They are probably, I would say right now, in the top three in the teams in the AFC, with Buffalo and I mean, I guess we have to say Baltimore. I think Baltimore's below them, but whatever. But I think the Chargers have been incredible, man. Incredible. And it's just, you're starting to see the infrastructure of a team that's led by Jim Harbaugh. And yeah, so shout out to those guys. We had... where do we go? I don't think we got to do much Dallas and Chicago. But 49ers, Cardinals, the Niners. My beloved Niners. Nick Bosa out for the year, torn ACL. And it's just every week is something. The Niners win a game 16-15, walk-off. And a game that saw us win because Eddie Pinheiro made a 35-yarder. My Nicaraguan brother. Mac Jones led a game-winning drive for the win. And the Niners, even though they were without Ayuk, without Jennings, without Kittle, without Bosa for a large part of that game, They did it. They took care of business without Purdy. They took care of business, and they got to 3-0. A year ago, this team loses this game. They lose the game versus the Saints, and they lose the game versus Seattle. A year ago, we are 0-3. This year, we're 3-0. And one of the things that was amazing watching this game yesterday was how Shanahan handled the time management. And he handled it to perfection. And he managed the game so well. And it is like a growth of Shanahan to kind of just manage this game and just play it out in that way. And so it's 3-0. Now, it feels awful because no Bosa. And again, there's no way to replace Nick Bosa. There's no guy you bring in unless you're getting, Myles Garrett or somebody like that. But it is an opportunity for everybody else to stand up. And I will say, last year when Bosa went out versus Seattle and our team completely crumbled and Geno led that comeback, that didn't happen yesterday. When Bosa left, everybody just stepped up. And I think this Niner team is different than last year's in that sense, that you got these young guys that are just stepping up, and it's just next man up, and we're just going to keep grinding. We're going to keep playing, and we're going to keep coming after you. And if the guy next to us falls, you know what? There's going to be another guy that rises up. And I trust this front office to go out and do something, bring in somebody. Now, I do think the strength and conditioning coach, that guy needs to get fired. The Niners need to investigate what the hell is happening. What is all these injuries? Or if somebody's doing voodoo on the Niners, we get it. Stop it. Can you just leave us alone, man? Please. But yeah, that's where we're at, man. That's such an interesting place to be in as a 49er fan, because you're 3-0, you feel great, but Nick Bosa's out. But it's I don't know, man. I still feel really good about this team, and Purdy might come back. But it was such a gutsy win, and so I'm just so proud to be a 49er fan today. And that's it. That's where we're at. Week 4. Week 3. The Chiefs, whatever. They took care of business with the Giants. It was a boring game. Russell Wilson sucks. Mahomes just doesn't look as great. Might be his weapons are not that great, but last time you guys were trying to tell me that Purdy's only good because of his weapons. So if Mahomes, are you telling me he only looks good when he has weapons? So is he same as Purdy? So I don't know. Am I being petty? Probably. But yeah, Mahomes doesn't look good. But they, played a crappy Giants team, and they got the victory. So that's a wrap. Heading into week 4, what are we looking forward to? Here are 3 matchups to look forward to that I think can be possibly good. I'll give you 4. We'll do 4. 4. 1, Seattle versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals are a frisky team. Interdivision matchup. Seattle are 2-1. Cardinals are 2-1. And I think this has potential to be a really good game. I don't think Seattle's as good as what people think. And I think we're going to have these very inconsistent games from that offense. They played and they put 40-something points on the Saints last week, but it's the Saints. I'm looking forward to that game. 1. 2, Eagles-Bucks might be the marquee matchup of all of Sunday. Look forward to that one. Baker versus Jalen Hurts. Are the Eagles going to continue the offensive momentum that they had versus the Rams? They go to Tampa, and that seems to be like a house of horrors for them. Is that going to continue? All of that. Third game, Colts Rams. Colts Rams, yes, that's gonna be a really good game in LA. Can Danny Dimes do this against a McVay coach team? Is he able to just run wild against these Rams? I look forward to that one. 3-0 Colts, 2-1 Rams. Should be good. And the fourth one, there's options. I can be a homer and tell you Jaguars Niners. Not going to do that. I'm looking for that one, but you're probably not. We can do Ravens Chiefs because it's Ravens Chiefs and it's a sexy name, and Lamar versus Mahomes, and Harbaugh versus Reed and all that. Or we do Cowboys Packers. Micah coming back to Dallas. How's that gonna look? Hey, you know what's happening. And we can go that route. I'm going to go here. And I think it's not too crazy. I'm going to go Ravens Chiefs. I'm going to be boring. I'm going to go Ravens Chiefs just because I think eventually this stuff that's being said about Mahomes and all the, he's not that good anymore. Lamar's better. Josh is better. I think these are the games that Mahomes is probably circling as somebody who is super competitive. He's probably circling these games, and he's probably thinking, you don't think I'm that good anymore? You think those guys are better? I have all the chips. Those guys haven't even beaten me in the playoffs. And you think they're better? And so I look forward to that one. Because the Chiefs haven't looked great. Looked awful. But I think there's games like these where Mahomes has the potential to just carry and lead and kind of just get on his LFG stuff, energy, and kind of just take it to that team. And so I'm looking much looking forward to that. I don't really care for the soap opera that's going to be Micah back in Dallas, and the two Monday night games. If Burrow was playing, I would say Bengals Broncos would be the fourth game. But without Burrow, that game is just all right. And Jets Dolphins, yikes, what a snoozer. So, yeah, that's where we're at, week 4. So let's do some football. Dembele won the award, the Ballon d'Or, that at one moment was considered the best award, the most prestigious award, and they got super politicized. And now guys don't show up unless they're going to win. So you had Real Madrid who didn't show up, and Xavi Alonso was yeah, we're focused on Levante. I didn't send any of my guys. But Dembele won, deservedly so. And this was a tough one, right? Because you could have made the argument maybe Lamine Yamal, but I thought Dembele was the best player over the course of that season. And yeah, not much controversy there. So he won, and we'll see how the rest of the season turns out. I think next year is Mbappe's to lose, me personally, because he's been just on a run. He's been phenomenal. But maybe Ronaldo wins the World Cup, and they have to give it to him, right? Because that's going to be interesting. If Ronaldo wins the World Cup, he has to get it, doesn't he? Because you gave it to Messi. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, that's it. That's all I have for you for today. Let me give you final thought. I've been taking the bus lately, and I think we need some just I want to see just these rules, these metro rules, these rules that you are to do and what not to do on the train. Don't listen to I wish there was somebody who enforced these rules, because they are these rules. I wish there was somebody to enforce them. I wish there was somebody that could be there to really enforce these and really say, hey, you can't do that, man. You cannot do that. Turn that off, or get off the phone. You're too loud, or stop yelling. That's my problem with that. Just Metro, let's beef it up a little bit. Let's enforce these rules. That's it. I'll talk to you Wednesday. Christian World 3 Wednesdays. Psalm 4? I think so. Yeah. Talk to you then. See ya. Astapod. Thank you to David. Thank you. But I keep saying that. Thank you to Angel. Thank you to Triumph. We'll leave it in there. So I can learn. Thank you to Angel. Thank you to Triumph. Thank you to you for listening. You can follow us on Instagram. The Instagram is @ArrowsUp. You can listen to this pod anywhere you get your pods. So please rate, review, and subscribe. I'll be back on Wednesday and Wednesday, Friday. It's a schedule. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I'll be back then. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the last week of baseball. And enjoy the football and the football. Enjoy all of it. So, no more roll call. Just gets too long. No more roll call. I'll just give you just whatever team is there. So, very hopeful. Let's go Sox. Hopefully we make the playoffs. And we're down. We're sad. But we're 3-0. So vamos Niners.